Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. It is the game day preview for this weekend's All-Ireland Senior Football Championship action. Plenty of action to run through, plenty of action to discuss for this weekend's action in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. Certainly a lot of games to break through. You've obviously got Dublin taking on Meath, the big old rivalry itself, a rivalry that unfortunately has died off quite massively, hasn't it, in the last sort of 10 years or so. You can thank us Dubs for that one. But yeah, look, obviously Meath last year gave Dublin a bit of a run for their money. I mean, they brought it back to a 3-point game, was it, going into extra time? So I mean, we'll certainly have to keep an eye on that one. You've got Kildare against Westmeath as well, who will be joining either Dublin or Meath in that Leinster final. Derry against Monaghan, Limerick against Tipperary, and Tyrone against Kildare as well. So plenty of action to run through, plenty of talking points. So if you could smash the like button for those who are watching live, and if you're watching after we've gone live, that would be much appreciated. Helps the channel grow. And if you could subscribe as well if you're new, that would be absolutely fantastic. So I'll tell you what, we'll start with Limerick and Tipperary, because probably the game probably we're least excited for, let's be honest. But it's a big opportunity for either county to get to their first, for Limerick to get to their first Munster final since 2010. And I have to say, Billy Lee, he's done a phenomenal job there so far for Limerick. I mean, he's when you think about it, he took over them when they were a Division 4 team, and he's brought them. Let's just fix this camera there just a little bit. Oh. Things you don't want to see when you go live there. But yeah, look, Limerick, generally speaking, for Billy Lee and in general, I mean, they've done a fantastic job, obviously, coming up from Division 4 all the way up to Division 2 now it is. And look, when they played Tipperary a couple of years ago, they gave them a good run for their money. They probably should have beaten them on another day. I mean, I remember Tipperary missed a lot of chances, and they even had that, Conor Sweeney obviously gets them out of jail going into the closing couple of minutes, obviously, with that point from the sideline. That was obviously in 2020, when Tipperary, of course, went on to reach that year's Munster final and won the Munster Championship as it was. So obviously Tipperary have a knack of beating Limerick or beat them in that championship. But Limerick did follow on with a result against Tipperary in the league the following year. So look, I think it's going to be an interesting one. You'd look at Limerick and you look at the progression that they've made in particular under Billy Lee, how well coached they are, how well brilliant they are. They sort of soak up pressure, and then they break on the counter-attack. They all sort of sing off the same hymn sheet, which for me is what makes Limerick so exciting. You've obviously got Peter Nash in there, Hugh Burke when he's running forward with the ball. Ian Corbett, of course, a halfback, has been absolutely tremendous. So, for Limerick to get to their first Munster final since 2010, that would be a huge, huge achievement. But the question is going to be for Limerick is, how do they stop the influence that is Conor Sweeney? Because we've seen how good of a player he is. And, the thing is about Tipperary is that this team isn't, although they, reached the Munster final in 2020 and obviously won the Munster Championship that year as well. We know there has been a couple of changes to their team, and they've kind of got a couple of new players in there this year, like Mikey O'Shea, Mark Russell, who's come in as well. So be interesting to see, Sean O'Connor, who's come up from the under-20s. Can this Tipperary team deliver? Which will be the interesting one. Sharon says here, how are you? I'm doing great. I hope all is well there. Adam Dawson says, do you think Cavan will the other cup for 3 and 4 teams? I think he means, will they win the cup? I mean, look, they should do. Cavan are, the fact that they found themselves in Division 4 in the first place was a big, big surprise. And you're seeing the quality of players that they have, on another day, they probably should have beaten Donegal with the talent that they have. And, Gerard McKernan, Paddy Lynch, who's been incredible. But the worry I'd have for Cavan is, are they going to, which Cavan's going to turn up? Is it going to be the National League Cavan, or is it going to be the Championship Cavan? Now, you probably should give them the benefit of the doubt after their performance against Donegal. But yeah, that is that is obviously the big talking point. But yeah, for Limerick, Tipperary, what are we going to go for? Do you know what? I'm going to back Limerick. I think they'll narrowly have enough to squeeze past the might that is Tipperary. But if Tip can get Conor Sweeney into the game, get him kicking, Mikey O'Shea as well, Mark Russell in and around the middle. It could be a close game, and Tipperary do seem to have a knack in the championship of coming through teams that isn't Kerry, obviously. So yeah, I'm going to back Limerick maybe narrowly by 2 to 3 points. But this is certainly one that could go either way. Obviously, Limerick, who beat Clare on penalty shootouts in an incredible way to finish a game, whether it's right or wrong. It certainly was a little bit controversial, and this one could go to extra time, possibly even more as well. But I would have to back Limerick narrowly. Let's move on then to the Leinster Senior Football Championship semi-finals, and an interesting comment here from David Moore, who says if Kildare and Dublin win their semi-finals this weekend, it will be the first time ever that a minor under 20 and senior provincial finals have been contested by the same teams. Yeah, very interesting point there from David, and obviously Kildare getting the better of the Dubs at under 20 level. Obviously still need to wait for the minor final as well. So maybe that's a good omen for Kildare right there. And obviously we will be discussing Kildare again a little bit later on in terms of that under 20 final going up against Tyrone, and obviously the might that is Rory Canavan, who's been brilliant there. But look, for Kildare, I think you see them going up against Westmeath. We know they're the favourites here, and I think for Kildare, I think what most impressed me about them in that Loud game was that was a potential banana skin. That was a game where Kildare could have slipped up. That was a game that people looked at and thought, Kildare going up against Samuel Roy, obviously Mickey Hart as well, who's a master tactician. Kildare have obviously had a brilliant Division 1 campaign. I mean, won 3 games, obviously beat the likes of Dublin in there, won 2 games, actually drew the other against Kerry. But you've got players like Jimmy Hyland, Dara Kirwan, Paddy Woodgate, who's come in, looked brilliant. Daniel Flynn, as we know, is a next level footballer, one of the best forwards in the country, in my opinion. But people did think that was going to be a banana skin, but they dealt with them. They just swept them to one side. Absolutely no bother. 16-point victory. Bob's your uncle, Mary's your auntie. Do you know what I mean? Like, very, very comprehensive from Kildare. And going up against Westmeath, they should be doing the same here, realistically speaking. I mean, look, Westmeath are a weird one because I do think they're a good team. You look at them in Division 3. I think they've got good players. Obviously, John Heslin's a top-class forward. Ray Kennellan, great around the middle. They play good foot. They seem to... I haven't seen enough of them this year to kind of give a good verdict on them, but from watching them in 2021, sometimes they were quite defensive. Then they'd play overly attacking football, almost too attacking, like, for example, against Cork in that relegation playoff in Division 2. They were overly attacking, but played some brilliant football. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't transcended into 2022. It was only, 3 points in it last year. Westmeath had a lot of chances in that Leinster semi-final, and probably on another day might have felt that they would have come out with the victory. So, look, this is going to be an intriguing one. It is on GAA Go as well. Actually, good to see the Kildare and Westmeath and Dublin and Meath games both on GAA Go, because it was looking like for a certain period of time that neither one of those games were going to be shown on TV. But look, Kildare at Croke Park, they have to deliver here, because they've, this is a fantastic opportunity for Kildare this year, in my opinion, to win the Leinster Championship. I know people would still look at Dublin as strong favourites. I certainly still would as well. But I do think at the same time, there is, that aura about Dublin isn't there this year. It just isn't there. There are defensive issues there. They're still playing that man-to-man game, which I've seen against Wexford. There is defensive problems in there. And if you get those forwards sticking in Croke Park, in the open space, they could cause Dublin a lot of problems. So it's a huge opportunity. I fully expect them to take it. And I think they'll come out 7-point winners against Westmeath. Be interesting to see if Westmeath can turn up, though, and play the type of football that we've seen them play last year. And it'd be interesting to see what style, whether they are kind of overly defensive, because we've seen them sort of be quite defensive at times as well. Maybe that might frustrate Kildare. And if they can stick in the game for 50 to 60 minutes, it might just make Kildare a little bit nervous, because there is pressure on Kildare. There definitely is. But I'm going to back them to just about have enough here by 6 points. But let me know in the comments live or afterwards what your opinions are in terms of this game. Sharon says here, do you think this is the year where Donegal get to an All-Ireland semi-final? Well, look, I've thought they would have got to an All-Ireland semi-final in previous years. It's 2014 the last time they reached an All-Ireland semi-final. You were looking at 2020 when they were going into that final against Cavan. You were thinking surely they win that and go automatically into the semis. A couple of times in the Super 8s, they had it within their grasp. So I'm not sure. I mean, look, it's, they've got some big games obviously coming up. The Ulster final is not going to be easy. The qualifiers are not going to be easy as well. So a lot to ponder for Donegal certainly. And I think the main thing really is getting through that Ulster Championship first of all. We've then got the big one, Dublin and Meath. Here we go, baby. Here we go. Dublin have won the last 7 meetings between these two in the championship, going as far back as 2010, which I think most people know at this stage. Dublin winning the last 7 games. Interesting enough, the aggregate scoreline between these two in the last 3 years, a little bit frightening. Dublin 654, Meath 126. Oh my goodness. And Meath actually scored 113 last year as well. So they only kicked 13 points in the previous 2 years. And Dublin with 654 in that time period as well. And let's not forget, in the second half last year, they were actually quite poor. They probably should have won by more in the end. Look, Meath are a weird one for me. I think they've got good players. I think they've got quality forwards in Jordan Morris. I think Shane McEntee's a good player. He's done well this year. Jack O'Connor, who's come in there. There's plenty of Jack O'Connors going around. Meath have their own one, and he's done quite well this year. He actually scored 1-3 against Wicklow. They've got good young players, Matthew Costello, Cathal Hickey, but I just don't really know if they have much confidence or bottle within the team, and I'm not too sure if they're coached well enough. I'm not too sure if Andy McEntee's good enough, to be perfectly honest. He might prove me wrong, but I just think Meath, they're one of them teams that if you can build up a 6, 7, 8 point lead, they'll crumble, they'll fall. And if Dublin turn up in this one, they could really put Meath to the sword. Because you look at 2020, for me, Meath were in a much better place going into that final than they were this Leinster semi-final. They'd been playing competitive games in Division 1, playing good football. Shane Walsh was in good form as well. Jordan Morris was in the form of his life. Brian Menton, Brian McMahon, these players, Ronan Jones, like a lot of quality players, but Dublin just absolutely blew them away. It wasn't even a contest, really. I think it was a 24, 25 point win in the end. And look, Dublin have regressed this year, make no mistake about that. 6 defeats in 8 games before the meeting with Wexford. 11 goals conceded in the league. Obviously, you can't, the Wexford game, certainly a lot of improvements, played a lot better. Con O'Callaghan coming back in made a big difference to the team, make no mistake about that. But the problem really from Dublin perspective is there is defensive issues there, and I can see Meath exploiting them. I really can. I can see Jordan Morris getting a bit of space. If Matthew Costello makes those runs up from wing back, which he did last year and caused Dublin so many problems, I think he was the one who should have won a penalty as well. Meath could cause problems, but the problem I have with Meath is just I think they have a bit of a soft underbelly. I'm not going to lie. I think if Dublin show up and make this a physical contest, start fast, I think Meath will wilt. I'm going to be perfectly honest. But if Dublin don't show up and they start slow and they play this sort of passing it around the back and no kick pass and just playing this running game, Meath maybe might fancy their chances. So it's going to be interesting. Emmett says here, Dublin to be in an All-Ireland final, not relying on one forward like Kerry. So interesting point there from Emmett, but to be honest, I would have to disagree with you there. I think Kerry have a lot of options in attack. Obviously, David Clifford is a phenomenal forward, make no mistake about that, one of the best in the country, but they clearly do have other options. Sean O'Shea is a player who's ticking away. Tony Brosnan, that they've plenty of options, make no mistake about that. Plenty of players. But look, Dublin, they'll be close. Hopefully we'll be close, and I would expect Dublin to turn over Meath. It's going to be an intriguing one. It's going to be an exciting one, and be curious to know from Meath supporters what the general consensus is going into this one, because as I've said before, I do think there's confidence issues in that Meath team. You've seen it throughout the league as well. I think they're better than where they finished. I think they should be competing to get out of Division 2. I think they have good players, good underage players. They've got good underage structures at minor level as well. Obviously, under 20, they've had a couple of problems there, but they've found a good few young players in the last couple of years, and at least Andy McEntee has been good at that. It's just been consistency and sticking to the game plan, I think, which has been a bit of an issue. So, I think Dublin should have enough to come through this one. It's a hard one to call because we don't know what Dublin's going to turn up. We don't know what Meath is going to turn up at the same time as well. If Dublin play the same way that they played against Wexford, which we don't really know because it was Wexford at the end of the day, wasn't it? And it's a completely different level. You're probably talking about arguably one of the, lowest ranked teams in the country anyway. Make no mistake about that. So I would fancy Dublin maybe narrowly just to squeeze out Meath maybe by 5 or 6 points in the end. But I think Meath could definitely cause Dublin problems, and it's going to be a very, very intriguing one. Make no mistake about that. You've got Derry then against Monaghan. 2009, the last time these two met in the championship, and it was Derry actually who came out as the winners on that occasion. They actually met the year previous as well, which was Monaghan's last win, and that was in the All-Ireland qualifier. So two counties that, Monaghan have obviously been thereabouts in the Ulster Championship, obviously in the last sort of 10 years or so, but Derry were very much in free fall around that time period. So two counties that haven't actually played each other in over, 10, 12 years in the championship, which is interestingly enough. I mean, Derry's performance against Tyrone was exceptional, absolutely exceptional from start to finish. The quality that they have all over the pitch, Conor Glass around the middle, Emmett Bradley coming off the bench, Garrett McKinless, who was tremendous as well. Chris Haig, brilliant in defence. They have so many options. And Monaghan, whilst they do have a top-class forward in Conor McManus, make no mistake about that. And we've seen the likes of Gary Mohan come into the side, Andrew Woods as well, Aaron Mulligan, who hasn't featured too much this year, but he's been quite an impressive player to come up from the under-20s in the last couple of seasons. So with Monaghan, though, for me, I think at times, like if you get at them, you put them under pressure, I think they could wilt a bit. I really do. And I think Monaghan, they have the players to win this one, but I just think Derry, with that momentum after that victory over Tyrone, like an 11-point victory, it's in many ways, it's almost gone under the radar. Like I know Tyrone finished with 13 men, they had a player sent off. Was it Brian Kennedy who got sent off after, 26, 27 minutes, and obviously playing against 14 men for the majority of the game, but they absolutely took them to the cleaners. I mean, they roasted them inside and out. It was a mismatch, really. And I think Derry are a side that really is now going under the radar. I think you have to give them the respect as the real deal. I think they're a top-class team. Shane McGuigan as well. Benny Heron. Just like they don't just have one or two great players. They've got 4, 5, 6 great players, all across the pitch. And even forget Kieran McFell, who's opted out of the team as well. So for me, I think Derry are going to win it. I do. I think Monaghan, they're a team that I think they struggle to see out games. Their game management's always been a problem. Even against Dublin, like giving away that penalty, at the death, kind of shows really the problems that they have in seeing out games. And they obviously still won the game, but they're actually a much better team when they're chasing the game. So it's a weird one with Monaghan. I think Jack McCarron, if he gets going, he obviously played very well in their last win as well against Down. So look, there'll be a couple of things for Derry to worry about, most certainly. And I would expect Derry to play in that similar type way that they did against Tyrone. Obviously, a lot of men behind the ball, suffocating the space sort of inside their own 45, not allowing Monaghan much time on the ball, because you do look at Monaghan and they've probably only got maybe 2 natural shooters really sort of, from way out the field. You're looking at Conor McManus, Jack McCarron as well. So, yeah, I think Derry are going to have enough, and I think they're going to pick Monaghan off on the counter-attack in a similar fashion to the way that they did against Tyrone, and it will be a first Ulster final since 2012, is it? Since Derry last reached an Ulster final, so that would be a significant achievement from a Derry perspective. But look, for Monaghan going into the qualifiers, they will be a team to fear, make no mistake about that. But I think Derry at this moment in time, with the momentum that they have after that Tyrone victory, I can see them narrowly seeing out Monaghan. I'm going to go by 3 points, which might be a surprise to some people. I think a lot of people are still back in Monaghan. But yeah, I'd be definitely curious to see your opinions in the comments down below or live as well. Last but not least, then the under-20 final, Tyrone and Kildare, is taking place at Carrick on Shannon. We're obviously discussing during the week some of the controversy that has surrounded this one. And it's going to be a game certainly worth watching. I mean, can Tyrone deliver yet another under-20 All-Ireland? 2017, I think, was their last one. Kildare's last All-Ireland was in 2018. And for Tyrone, I mean, speaking about them, first of all, I mean, the talent and quality that they have, I mean, the fact that they keep producing at underage level is almost scary because, you know, every time you think maybe Tyrone, you look at them this year, for example, and you're seeing, okay, maybe some players are opting out, you know, some players aren't available, maybe there's issues behind the scenes, but then you've got this bunch of under-20 footballers, Rory Canavan, Kieran Bogue, Michael McGlennon, like a lot of players coming through the ranks there that could maybe be in the senior team by the time that Tyrone play in the qualifiers. Wouldn't expect them to start, but I would expect them to maybe be in the panel. And that just makes Tyrone, you know, a sort of an unknown quantity to see how well those players could potentially do at an under 20 level. And, you know, what impressed me against Kerry was there, and what impresses me the most about this Tyrone team is they have that sort of Tyrone-ness in them. They don't give up. They keep fighting. You know, they were behind against Cavan. They had to work to win that game. They were struggling at times in that one, came through it. Against Kerry, they were losing for large parts in that one, conceded a goal right before half-time, which would have knocked the stuffing out of most teams. You know, or conceded a goal straight after half-time, I should say. And, you know, they responded brilliantly. And, you know, obviously that late rally, Rory Canavan getting on the score sheet, who, I mean, what an exceptional player he is, kicking points from the sideline as well. An extraordinary talent, make no mistake about that. But look, you can't discount Kildare, who've certainly had a habit of producing underage players in the last couple of seasons as well. And actually, as a Dublin fan, from a Dublin perspective, it's almost quite worrying seeing Kildare producing these under-20 players and continuing the sort of you know, success obviously they built off in 2018. Like, you're seeing a lot of those players in the team at the minute. Obviously, Jimmy Hyland, Paddy Woodgate, but Derek Kirwan's come from another grade. Obviously, he came from minors. But like, Kildare do have a lot of players. And when you look at maybe some of Dublin players aging and maybe not bringing through the same sort of players that are coming through the ranks, and Kildare are bringing through, you know, class players like Fanning and Brown and a few other lads in there, you could argue the case that the gap is certainly closing from a Kildare perspective. And yeah, Aaron Brown, I thought, was brilliant in that victory over Sligo from what I've seen. Watched about the first half, sort of early stages in the second half, and he looked like he was having a cracking game. And just the game management from Kildare, I think, has been very impressive as well. Gavin says here, Mayo, Tyrone, Armagh, and potentially Monaghan should be interesting qualifiers. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, do those teams somehow get kept apart, or do some of them end up drawing each other? I'd be curious to know what some of your opinions are on that as well, because as much as you would want a Mayo and Tyrone in the opening round of a qualifier, maybe you want that game further down the line, or maybe you have it now. I'm not sure, but it would be very, very intriguing. It really, really would. But yeah, look, from what I've seen of Kildare, you know, obviously they beat the Dubs, of course, in that Leinster final as well, beat Offaly. So they've beaten some good teams, and defensively they've done very well. They've shut out a lot of teams that they've played, kept Sligo down to 7 points, and clearly do have a lot of quality all across the pitch. But from what I've seen, and I haven't seen too much of under-20 football this year, for me, it's been very rushed, which has been disappointing. It's actually disappointing that the final is on this weekend, in my opinion. But I'm going to back Tyrone, I think. I just think they have a knack of winning at this level. They have a knack of winning Big games, this Tyrone side. And look, it could easily be wrong, but I think with that X factor of Rory Canavan, Kieran Bogue as well, I think they might just have enough to squeeze out Kildare. But it could be extra time, could potentially be more as well. I'm not too sure. Maybe this one could go to a replay. But I'm gonna back Tyrone to just about narrowly see off Kildare in the final. Emmett says Dublin got winners all over the field. Kerry reliant on one man. O'Shea hit scores, but mainly frees. Well, what I would say is, go back and have a look at the Cork game and have a look at how much Clifford scored, because I think he only got about 3 or 4 points. He was largely anonymous for the majority of the game, but still came through it, winning by 12 points. I know against a better team in a Dublin or, a Tyrone maybe, or a Mayo further down the line, Donegal or a Galway. But I think they do have a lot of options. Paul Gainey as well. So, look, we'll have to obviously wait and see. Certainly a lot to work on for Jack O'Connor, but I do think Kerry have a lot of options. Dublin, on the other hand side, probably don't have the same options in depth coming off the bench as Kerry do. Like, Kerry are able to bring a Paul Gainey off the bench, which kind of reminds me of, when Dublin want to bring Kevin McManaman or Bernard Brogan off the bench. You've experienced veterans there who are still part of the squad. So it certainly should be intriguing to keep an eye on that. But just the 5 games to run through this weekend. Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. As I said, I think Dublin will have enough to get past Meath by 6 or 7 in the end. I think Dublin might build up a bit of a lead and maybe take the foot off the gas in the final 20 minutes, and then Meath will rally a little bit late on. I think Kildare should have enough to see off Westmeath. I think it would be a big upset if they didn't come through that, wouldn't it? And I think Derry, haven't seen how well they played against Tyrone, I think that bit of, that sort of ambush that they gave them, I just think they're going to carry on and win that. And yeah, I think Limerick and Tyrone will see success as well. In terms of players to watch, I mean, obviously you're interested to keep an eye on Rory Canavan, interested to keep an eye on Aaron Brown of Kildare as well, who's looked very good. I suppose from a Dublin perspective, really defensively is what I'll be watching. The likes of Mick Fitzsimons, Owen Merchant, maybe Davy Byrne if he comes back into the team, who was injured the last day, I believe. It'll be intriguing to see how they get on against that sort of Meath explosiveness. So I think that's the game really that intrigues me the most, to say the least. So yeah, look, listen, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. There will be a live watch along for the Dublin and Meath game as well. So stay tuned for that one. And stay tuned for a number of match reactions, videos, all the rest that will be coming out in the coming days and weeks. And if you could subscribe, smash the like button, all the rest, share this out to your friends and family, that'll be much appreciated. So cheers anyone who tuned in. My name's Aaron, and I'll see you all in the next one.